So I got in contact with the Arcane leaker, and it actually turns out that what we got in Season 2 was the rewritten script after Riot Games came in and did not want to really make Jinx a villain. So the way Arcane was supposed to go was in a completely different direction with an actual war between Piltover and Zon laid out. Here is the preview image actually. You see it says made by Riot Games copyrighted, and it shows Vine Caitlyn looking over a destroyed Piltover with clearly a war happening, which seems like everything that was setting up to be built in Season 1. And that honestly makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of inconsistencies within how Arcane Season 2 and all the related materials came out that really gives credence to the evidence that Season 2 was supposed to go a different way. So first piece of evidence is the Jinx skin. In League of Legends, they came out with like a $500 Jinx skin, and there's actually 3 versions of Jinx that we see. We see one, the original Jinx in our dimension. We see Powder from the alternate universe, and we see this dark nightmare version of Jinx. And yes, this actually teases the original scripts. Also, there's an Easter egg with the word anomaly, because anomaly is something that's not supposed to exist, something outside the universe. So with the existence of the anomaly, that actually took us off the normal canon of the story into this alternate universe. So basically, everything in Season 2 is an anomaly. And there's a disruption in the time sphere. Also, a big plot hole is Victor's hand runes. That's why when the mage saved Jace, he had a bunch of runes on his hands. But when we see the Victor flashback, which was literally shot-for-shot recreation, the hands don't look the same. So that really explains this version of the script that the writers originally wanted to take Arcane. So I'll be going over to that. I got in contact with the famous leaker that leaked Act 3 before it happened. They also leaked the first 2 acts of Arcane Season 2 before it came out. So it should be pretty credible. All the sources will be in the description. And this is definitely not an April Fool's prank. I really like how they did not manage to incorporate an anomaly, because it allowed Jace, Heimerdinger, Echo, major characters for the overall direction of Piltover and Zon, to stay within the story and have their effects impact everything. And we actually see that in this version of the script. So let's start from the beginning. I'll go over everything. I have all these notes. And yeah, so episode 1 actually starts out normally. So this is right after the rocket hit the Piltover Tower, and it starts with a flashback of Jinx exploring Zon with Echo. So they come across a green crystal cave within Zon, and Powder complains about being jealous of Vi and Echo's personal independence not having a sibling. But this flashback actually takes place in 2 time periods, where while Powder and Echo are adventuring throughout Zon, they also find Jinx's airship hideout that we later see her after the time skip. This suddenly flips to a few years in the future where Echo's trying to rescue Jinx from under Silco's control, and Jinx says, "Leave me alone, I want to stay here, you are not the boy's savior," and kicks him out. So it just flips between Echo and Powder, Echo and Jinx. But this basically establishes that there is a hidden mine energy crystal reserve underneath Piltover, not the hex crystals. It's called Glamrock. Glowing green stones, that the fumes are actually what power a lot of the chemtech within Zon. They capture the gases, concentrate. That's the green and red liquids that we see powering Jinx's grenades, a lot of machinery. So yeah. So with Jace actually being present in the story, it goes a different way. Ambessa starts playing Jace and getting him to weaponize hex tech, and we actually get the introduction of Camille as she enters in as an upper house, willing to fund engineers that contributes to the weaponization of hex tech leading into war. But for the most part, it stays similar to how episode 1 turned out, with a chem tank attack on everyone in Piltover, Caitlyn's strike force. The lack of the anomaly decreased the presence of the Black Rose when it actually comes to controlling what happened in Piltover, which gives Ambessa a lot of leeway, where she actually starts manipulating Jace instead of Sallow. And because of the lack of the anomaly taking its hold on Victor, Jace is a lot less worried about Victor's current condition, which allows him to have the headspace to get really angry at Zon for almost suggesting peace, which Ambessa realizes and starts taking advantage of. So it keeps the trend of Season 1, where every episode starts with a flashback, and I actually really like how they kept this version of it throughout the show, how it just develops on a lot of characters that needed development, like Heimerdinger, Singe, all the jazz. So episode 2 is a Sevika flashback. So episode 2 starts with Sevika's flashback, and we actually find out that she is an immigrant living with a single father, and she gets bullied a lot in Piltover. Her father actually works as an enforcer, but during one episode, her father gets killed by a Zonite. Basically, Sevika's homeless, no job, gets kicked out, and eventually goes back to Zon. So Sevika spends some time at the last drop as a kid, and she eventually picks up Vander's attention, who tells her that she needs to stand up for herself and fight for what she wants, because not everyone can do that now that she's alone. So this eventually causes Sevika to want to throw her life away and just challenge the man that killed her father, and it turns out he leads a gang. So Sevika just walks up to the whole hideout. No one's taking her seriously, and she just challenges that guy to a duel. So he pulls out his knife. It's like, this is the same knife that killed your father. And as they're about to fight, like, the whole gang is surrounding her. Even if Sevika does manage to win, they're all just gonna jump her. But Sevika pulls out her father's gun that she still kept and just straight up shot him, which stuns all of the other guys. And as they try to jump her, Sevika shoots another one of them and dares them to come closer. Van eventually hears of the commotion and steps in to stop everything, but ultimately it results in Sevika kind of taking control of the gang. At this point, she's like 13, 14, and they know that she means business, and that's basically the start of her. So, carries into the normal show. Jinx teams up with Sevika and Isha, and the episode basically goes up with how normally goes. But without the anomaly leaking into Echo's tree, Echo doesn't actually venture into Piltover. So Echo hears about the attack on Piltover with the chem tanks and assumes that Jinx is behind it because Remy was under Soko and just assumed that Jinx was also controlling it, and knows that with this attack following her rocket attack that she is going to launch Piltover all into war. So Echo doesn't want that. He tries to meet her, tells her about it, but Jinx says she didn't do it. Jinx also wants peace, and Echo basically sends Heimerdinger to stay at the hideout to lock everything down. The two fight again because Echo doesn't believe her, and at this point, Jinx easily defeats Echo with her new shimmer buff. But as she's strangling him in the chokehold, she stops and talks about what they had together. She acknowledges that she killed his friends, how everything that she has now is gone, and wishing she could just go back, which strikes a chord with Echo because he has that same sentiment wanting to go back in time. But Jinx actually lets go of the chokehold and lets Echo get up, saying she's making her own decisions this time. Echo's saying, "What if I kill you?" But Jinx says, "I know you well enough," as she gives him the Hex Gem. I know you can do something amazing with this, and if this is my first step in believing in peace for a better outcome, so sends Echo on his way. We all know what we cherish more than bitter rivalries, and that is the success of Zaun as a whole, and turning Zaun into the city of tomorrow. So Echo takes the Hex Gem back to the hideout, and Heimerdinger seems fascinated with this, starts infusing it with magic now. And he comments about how the stone reminds him of this other magic stone found under Piltover, which they discuss, and Echo realizes it was the cave that he visited with Jinx. And it seems like Heimerdinger has something to say, but he shuts up, and Echo and Heimerdinger and they go to the Glamrock cave to investigate it. At the end of the episode, a firelight flies towards Jinx with the hideout and brings a green Hex Gem back. Third episode is an Ambessa backstory where it dives into her relationship, her affair with another man, Rudo, which was Mel's real father, and also Mel getting tattoos from him, getting her rune enhancements onto her body, and just a lot of content that was shown in Ambessa's Chosen of the Wolf. So the entire canon takes a return here, as without the anomaly, this is when the anomaly stuff keeps picking up. Now, this story from this point on diverges a lot from how Arcane Season 2 went. So it starts off actually with the Strike Force versus the Chem Barons. Remember, Season 2, they just instantly got taken off. They instantly got arrested off screen, but in this moment, Jinx actually comes in at the last moment, saves Shimmer from getting destroyed, which is the only thing that empowers Zaunites, and Vi gets a chance against Jinx, but Jinx is too strong at this point. Without the anomaly interfering with all the Hex-type weapons, Jinx just kills Maddie, Steb gets blown up, Loris sacrifices himself just to get Vi to get away, and Caitlyn actually gets captured. So Vi is on her own, she's bleeding, she's broken, she's running away, vowing to just stop Jinx from destroying everything, but Vi is alone. The whole Enforcer squad decimated, and at the end, Jinx enacts her plan to blow up the city with the smoke and paints a monkey face all over Piltover. So the Black Rose actually try to kidnap Mel again, but her magic gets revealed immediately this time instead of spending time in the cave. Ambessa tries to take away Mel for her safety after she hears what happens, but Mel doesn't want it. She wants to stay in Piltover, so they eventually fight. This actually brings Jace's attention, who becomes angry and enters and witnesses the fight. So obviously Jace realizes that Ambessa does not have the best intentions and joins Mel against her. So Mel starts infusing Jace with magic to buff him as he fights Ambessa. But the magic and Hex tech don't really work with each other, and his hammer basically explodes. So as the hammer is about to blow up, Ambessa realizes what's happening and actually jumps onto the hammer to prevent it from blowing up everyone. But Mel places a shield on Jace at the last moment. So Mel and Ambessa are taken out in the explosion. They're severely injured, but Jace is protected, and he just feels really guilty about everything that happened and decides to finish what Ambessa kind of started and just getting Piltover to peace. So Jace is angry at the Undercity. He has no mentors at this point. He is unchecked leader of the council. So he gets Camille, Alora, and Rictus as assistants as he declares war. Well, more like martial law. Jace repurposes the Hex Gates to churn out Hex Crystal weapons, not the Hex Gems, because if the Enforcers eventually die, they don't want their weapons to get taken and used by the Zaunites. So with the Hex Crystals, which are a lot more fragile, if they lose them, then they blow up immediately. So yeah, it also makes the Enforcers a lot more deadly, because they're about to blow up all the time. So after the fight, Jinx picks up all of the Chem Barons and establishes dominance over all of them. And she also makes an alliance with Echo's Firelights as they enter the scene. They're like, hey, we need to stand against Piltover. We got to establish independence for Zaun. So she flips the switch as all horns in Piltover. She hijacked all of them and she starts announcing to Piltover and Zaun, I was the one who attacked the council, this crooked gilded city, but I was also the one who killed Silco. The old age is over and now it's a ripe time for anyone to establish their version of progress. And that vision is for the forgotten nation of Zaun to establish what tomorrow means. And Jinx steps into the limelight. So Act 2 is when the war starts picking up. The Chem Barons build a big ass wall against Piltover. They have like electricity on top that starts like shocking everyone that gets nearby. They have turrets, goons hold the line, and Jinx takes over Rennie's Simmer production with Sevika and develops a new variant called Pinks for permanent speed enhancements. Basically the surgery Singe injected onto her, but she wants to perfect a version of that to give to soldiers. In the meantime, while working with Singe, she finds out about Warwick and finds out that he's still keeping Vander's body and Singe is trying to find a way to revive him as research for reviving his daughter. So Noxus and Piltover, they have a couple excursions into Zaun. We see Jace and his squad talking about the aftermath of that, but they've all been failures. And a lot of raids started happening in Piltover, taking out food storages, parts of the academy. And we see the replacement council sitting in their seats, and they're super vindictive. They want Jace to continue this war, but Jace outdoes all of their hatred. So it turns out a couple months have passed, and Jace comes to talk to Mel, and we actually find out that Mel is pregnant. And Ambessa, who was under coma for a long time, just disappeared one day, and no one knows where she went. Vi goes alone into Piltover to search for Caitlyn, as she doesn't want to risk any more enforcers dying. So Echo uses the Glam Rock storage, which has similar magic properties to the Hex Crystals, and he uses that to kind of duplicate the Hex Gems. But he actually sets up his own system with utilizing the magic to provide more food and flora for Zaun. Heimerdinger starts working with Jinx to build up Zaun defenses, and he notes that Piltover's going in the wrong direction. Jace wouldn't do this. This is not becoming of him. So Hexcore Victor, this time he is a lot less powerful, but he's still under some control of the Arcane, just not the Anomaly. He establishes the commune, and Singe hears about it and seems intrigued. He brings Warwick's body to him. They talk about their philosophies, and he gets Victor to heal Warwick's body. So Warwick at this point is dead, but Victor's magic infusing into him actually revives him. But obviously, Victor's power is diminishing at this point, and it can't be a full recovery, and all of a sudden, Warwick gets a sniff of something. Warwick runs off after a scent, which is a piece of Vi's hair left behind as she's investigating all of Zaun. Jinx keeps Caitlyn locked up as a bargaining chip, talks to her, but they actually bond. Jinx says Zaun wants something better. Caitlyn cries about her mom. Hey, your parents killed my parents. Caitlyn doesn't know about the specific war declaration, but eventually Echo talks to her, vouches for Jinx and her vision of the future, how she doesn't want needless bloodshed, and that kind of makes Caitlyn satisfied. She notices the green light coming off of Jinx's weapons, and she remembers back to the Kierman archives about the high energy reaction of those rocks and the huge underground mine of those rocks built under Piltover. So she immediately suspects that Jinx has some ulterior motives and starts trying to escape. So I really like the Caitlyn prison escape arc because it shows her investigative skills at the fullest potential, and it shows her alone. See, Caitlyn was very naive in Season 1. She learned a lot. Now she showcases a lot of independence and agency, trying to piece together a plan that actually allows her to escape one of the best protected regions of Zaun, which is the Chem Baron headquarters. So Jace gets really angry and starts torturing Zaunite prisoners for information, just kind of beating them up like what Rictus was doing, trying to learn about their new developments. Eventually, he finds a captured commune member and realizes that Victor's behind everything and how the dangers of his hex technology could spell disaster for Piltover. So he sets off with a small army with Rictus and Camille again. Warwick, chasing after Vi, eventually goes into Piltover. He is stopped by enforcers who don't know what the frick he is, but that just results in a bloody rampage. And that's pretty much how episode 4 goes. Episode 5 is a Singe flashback about his daughter, his whole working with Heimerdinger and whatever. And we cut to the presence where Victor actually heals her, but his energy is not enough. He heals her, but she's in a coma state. And Victor's energy has been very lacking. He's been eating the glam rocks and dosing himself with shimmer, which is completely destroying his body. His followers tell him that to stop bearing all the pain for all of them, but he says he must. This is his duty, that he knows what it's like to die, so he will live out his time, but do as much good as he can. Vi starts seeing the bloody rampages in Piltover, investigating it, and starts hunting around the city for it. She talks with the Piltover locals and bonds with like the local vendors, just ordinary civilians of Piltover, which just gives a lot of humanization to the ordinary people. Also, Vi seeming to care so much about keeping Piltover safe really inspires a lot of enforcers who start turning over their prejudice against her for being a Zonite. Eventually, Vi finds Warwick in another nighttime massacre and they get into a major fight. Right when Vi is about to finish him off, he starts whimpering and giving up. Vi realizes that this is Warwick and gets him captured and kind of arrests him as she calls in a bunch of other enforcers. So the episode ends with Echo finishing his time machine and him bringing Jinx back into the cave and talking about their glam rock production. Jace unveils a Hextech ballista and destroys all the Zon walls as he marches into Zon. His Hextech enforcer army like kill all of the goons sent after them, and he just charges his way forward to stop Victor at any cost. During this scene, Camille's eye flashes blue while Jace's glow yellow, seemingly like he's encompassed in Mel's energy. Episode 6 is a Camille flashback with her training throughout her life as an upper house, accumulating power, learning about stuff, betraying people, but she boasts actually a hatred for Jace as he stole her spotlight, that he all of a sudden became leader of the council when she was just about to make some major moves to step in as part of the council. So there's an underlying resentment between Camille and Jace, but she lets that simmer. Jinx and Isha start working on the project, which is their ultimate airship. Echo shows off the time travel and they play a little. Talks about perfecting it. Right now it's kind of like a save slot. He can calibrate it to set it to a certain time, and he can use like unlimited attempts to rewind back to that specific set point. Jinx talks about meeting with Victor and using his Hex Core powers to enhance and perfect the time machine. But the Firelight Squad come in and warn Echo of Jace's incursion. So Jinx tries to scrap together all the Zonite forces and just gather at the commune to stop them from doing that. And at this moment is Caitlyn's chance as she works out her plan. She escapes and follows Jinx actually to get to the Green Cave. She doesn't know where it is, but she just needs to stop whatever Jinx is doing because she realizes that Jinx is about to try to blow up all of Piltover with the Green Cave, and this is her only opportunity. So while following her, Isha notices Caitlyn, and she actually comes out into the open while they're in the cave. Caitlyn says she should have known that Jinx was always the same, but Jinx talks about her plan to string together these crystals to explode and blow up all of Piltover. So as they're talking in the cave, above ground is actually the commune, and Jace's army approaches. So Jace initially wants to talk 1v1 with Victor while Camille is escorting him. Victor talks about healing, but Jace seems disgusted with Victor's state and helping Zonites. Victor says passion and mercy is the way to heal them, and that he can adapt to everyone's pain. But Jace tells Victor to come back and that he can save him, but Victor refuses. He doesn't want to join a pointless war. So a bloody commune member enters as he actually tells Victor that Camille is just massacring everyone. Victor wants to get out to help them, but Jace stops him, and then Richter signals the army to invade. So at this moment, Vi is in Stillwater prison and she starts questioning Warwick, but Warwick isn't responding. All of a sudden, Warwick's ears perk up as a bunch of firelights start attacking the prison and Vi fights all of them off. Echo talks to Vi a little, but he's sad that Vi chose this path to hurt Zonites and promote this racism, and traps Vi in Crystal and calls her out. In this moment, Warwick notices the monkeys on Echo's time machine and he starts chasing after Echo. So Echo breaks out all the prisoners and just get out. You know how the firelights are. They come in, they get out, and all the prisoners, they just break out. So Vi breaks through the crystals eventually, and it's just her standing there alone. All the enforcers have been taken out by the firelights. All the prisoners have just been released, and Vi is the only thing stopping them from invading all of Piltover, causing a lot of havoc. Kind of reminiscent of Season 1, where Vi's on a bridge, facing against Silco's entire squad, but this time it's with like the worst criminals of all of Zon. At this moment, the Chem Barons arrive at the commune, the Noxon and Enforcers. Also, Jinx's elite squad, the Pink Squad, they mask up as they start gassing the entire commune, which doesn't really do anything because Enforcers also have gas masks, so all it does is just result in a bunch of commune members dying. Victor starts feeling all of the collective suffering of all his members as Jace stops attacking him. He doesn't want to kill Victor after all. Camille comes in and reveals her cybernetic enhancements and stabs Victor to finish him off. But as she stabs into Victor, she hits the hex core part of his heart. So the hex core just spazzes out and absorbs itself all into Camille, which she screams in pain and just gets taken over by this shimmery magic thing. While Victor's normal body, still with a stab wound through his heart, gets popped out. We cut back to Vi, who we see killed every single prisoner that was trying to escape in Stillwater, and she's scarred up. She screams and gets mad at Echo and follows the Warwick claw marks to try to stop Warwick from whatever he's doing. Cut back to the cave underneath the commune, and Caitlyn just wants to blow up the entire cave to prevent Jinx from using all these crystals to blow up Piltover. So she appeals to the Zonite miners and talks about how this plan won't do anything. It's just going to sacrifice their loved ones, and how Jinx is just using them. They actually turn against Jinx and Isha. They fight off the mine workers, and at this moment, Echo is flying on his hoverboard towards the commune, knowing what's about to happen. He sees the gas attack, but he realizes that the gas is flowing into the cave underneath. So back inside of the cave, it starts suffocating everyone. Echo's about to go in and just like flee with Jinx and Isha, just take them out of there, but Warwick enters the cave and just jumps them. So all the Zonite miners, they're basically dead, and all the important people, they're getting severely nerfed with all of the gray that's smoking them out. But Warwick seems unaffected. So as they're all trying to take on Warwick, Warwick is super reckless, he's scratching everything, and they realize that his strength is enough to detonate this entire cave and blow them all up. So Caitlyn, Jinx, Echo, they team against Warwick, and Vi enters. Vi has her goggles and mask on hand, so she's not affected, and she takes on the wolf. But Jinx also wants Vi to lose, so she starts fighting Vi. Caitlyn wants to back up Vi, so takes a shot at Jinx. Isha jumps in the way and gets shot. Echo smacks Caitlyn across the face. Vi gets angry, and her Hextech glove starts charging up. Caitlyn tells Vi to hold back, but Vi hits Warwick so hard into the walls that it triggers the stone, and everything explodes, blowing up the entire cave, everyone inside, and the entire commune above them. End of episode 6. So episode 7, we see Echo. He rewinds time, tries to stop everything. And Echo rewinds to the point where he's flying above the commune and he just noticed the gray. So he tries a bunch of methods. So he enters, tries to make Jinx not attack Caitlyn. Warwick enters and destroys everything. The cave blows up. So Echo rewinds again, comes back into the cave. She tries to take Caitlyn out of the cave to prevent any conflict from happening. And then he fights Warwick from outside of the cave. Vi enters, they defeat Warwick, and Echo tries to enter back into the cave and finds out that Jinx and Isha died to the gas. Echo tries again and again, tries every single possibility, but every single option results in either the cave blowing up, Jinx dying, or a bunch of bad shit happens. So at this moment, Echo's kind of breaking down. There's one moment where he just tries not doing anything and just cries sitting outside of the cave, and as everything blows up again. So eventually he locks in, goes into the cave, Warwick, Vi, Caitlyn, Jinx, Isha, they're all there, and he turns his time machine forward in time. So they all blip forward in time to after the explosion happened, which saves everyone in the immediate vicinity, but basically killed all the miners, killed everyone above in the commune. And all of them, they're kind of at the truce at this point, and they will all walk outside. Warwick actually died in the explosion, so the Piltover forces, they start retreating. The commune at this point is in shambles. Vi arrests everyone again and brings Caitlyn back to Piltover, but Isha is the only one that manages to slip out of the grasp. Mel wakes up from her coma. She realizes she's pregnant, realizes what happened, and Jace just came back from the battle. He comes back bloody, and they start arguing. Jace talks about being scared about a world where his child might get blown up, and his original office got blown up by Jinx. Piltover needs a new clean slate. They can't keep having attacks like this. Jace then places Victor in the Pharaoh's tear, and they start stitching up his body with metal, saving him. Camille is adapting to the Hex core, but it's very violent and she's screaming all the time. So it's not a very fun time for her. In the aftermath, Singe goes up to Warwick's charred corpse and starts extracting all his blood to use it to heal his daughter, but he notices Warwick is still alive and mumbling. But at this point, Caitlyn made her way back to the commune to investigate everything and arrested Singe and Warwick. Jinx and Echo start arguing in prison, say that they lost everything. Echo talks about starting again, building everything new like the tree, but Jinx is angry about not being able to blow Piltover up anymore. Echo realizes that what she truly wants is actually just to destroy everything. Like, not a figurative clean slate, but actually wiping Piltover clean. And tries to stop her, but Jinx knocks him out immediately. Isha pops out of one of the vents and basically gets Jinx out. The Undercity is furious at Piltover's incursion into the commune, and Sevika starts scaling up the Pink's production. Ambessa eventually shows up and meets with Sevika and talks about invading Piltover because she wants to get Mel and get Hextech control, and Jace is not going to let her do that anymore. Episode 7 closes off as Jason Mel makes a speech to Piltover about ending the war that is hurting both sides. Vi goes to prison after hearing Jinx escaped, and Echo berates her for killing everyone in the prison, about being violent, and Vi has a heart-to-heart with him. She talks about the things all of them did to Vi during her time in prison, how he suffered under Jinx as well. Echo talks about technology and the good it can do, time travel helping everyone, and that he cracked the case on it. And Vi says, yeah, I know the good technology does, but it's also the good people behind the technology. With her new glove, she can lift rubble, get to places in time, defend those she loves. As an enforcer, her anger can be used for something productive, saving more lives, preventing more orphans like her. Echo empathizes with her and says that whatever Jinx is planning to do isn't good. Vi tells him that she is far too gone, but she's willing to stop her if it means bringing peace and moving forward and stopping the Undercity's rioting. Caitlyn goes to the archives, learns about Piltover's origins, and an even larger Glamrock reserves underneath the city. The rocks were actually used to heat Piltover up, like power the steampunk. It's also one of the power sources of the Hexgate, and Jinx is actually learning about all of this as she's watching Caitlyn. Caitlyn senses that she's being watched, turns around, but Jinx disappeared at this point. Now, Vi's still in the prison. She goes up to Warwick to talk to him, and Vander actually wakes up. He rampages, but he calms down and comes to his senses. He asks Vi if it's her, that he's in pain, he can't control himself. Singe talks about how Shimmer and magic brought him back, but his psyche is warped. Vi gets angry and interrogates Singe, but Singe says it's no use. Without the power of the Hex Cord, the Shimmer will eat him alive. He has like a day left of his sanity. Warwick's eyes turn red as he starts howling and stops responding to Vi. And finally, Victor wakes up, sees his new machine body next to Camille, realizes what happened. Jace talks to him about how he should be back to normal now, how he shouldn't have any illness, how they replaced a lot of his body with metal, but Victor seems in a trance. Jace does seem regretful, thinking back on his bloody hands and how everything turned out, ruining Hex Tech, but Victor gets up and approaches Camille and says that his own duty of sacrifice is not done. Jace tries to stop him, but Victor reabsorbs the Hex Core that is eating Camille alive back onto himself as Victor screams into pain. As everything calms down and Camille is in a stable state, Victor says that destruction of the commune was actually for the best, to evolve it into something new, and talks about working with Jinx as his eyes flicker pink and green with the new power he has. So this teases that while Jinx broke out of prison, she gave some more Glamrock and Pinks to get him to fully heal. Jace gets up to stop him before Victor's eyes start glowing and a blinding light appears and he just disappears. Richter enters to check if everything's okay. At the end of the episode, Zonites start arming up. Jace oversees development of Hextech airships with Camille back in charge. Caitlyn interrogates Singe in prison, talking about his history as an academy professor. Vi and Echo return to the Firelight Tree with Heimerdinger badly beaten up, a lot of the Firelights massacred and the tree burning. Episode 8 starts with Heimerdinger's flashback founding the city with the original Kiermen as they stumble across the giant Glamrock cave. They said that these stones absorb remnant magic after a giant battlefield happened here between mages millennia ago. Heimerdinger talks to the Kiermen ancestor and says that this is the city of progress, a bastion away from magic, and they can build their foundations here. So as we cut back to modern time, Jinx flies in on an airship, has a giant firework and smoke display as she draws everyone in Piltover's attention. She announces the end of Piltover for everyone to surrender or she will blow up the whole city, and Jace starts deploying his airships. So he stands in the front of one of his and starts approaching Jinx and asks Jinx for her demands. Jinx repeats the same lines that Silco said: blanket amnesty, Zonite independence, free usage of the Hex Gates, and Jace just winces in disgust. Jinx demands her to be taken to the Hex Gates now or she'll detonate the entire Glamrock reserves of the city. Jace is forced to comply because he had no clue Jinx knew about this. Echo and Vi start talking to Heimerdinger about what happened. He talks about how Jinx came in and interrogated him about where the major Glamrock reserves are and that all of Zon is whipped up in a frenzy. He apologizes for not being able to defend the Firelights and how everything he did was a failure. Echo says it's fine, he did what he can, and asks who's still alive. Heimerdinger says that the majority of the adults escape with their children, and as everything crumbles, Vi protects them all with her shield. As they get out of the rubble, Vi just stares at some of the dead children and gets really fucking angry. So on the airship meeting between Jace and Jinx, Mel approaches and questions Jinx about what she's planning. But then she traps Jinx in a circle of magic. Thinking they have the upper hand, Jace signals for Camille to bring Jinx in, but Jinx smiles and tells Mel that she knows everything about her. And at this moment, Ambessa steps out of the airship and comments about it being a while since she'd ridden in a ship like this. And then all the Noxan guards, part of Jace's squad, they turn their spears at Jace as Rictus restrains Mel with his stones. Ambessa talks about looking forward to meeting her grandchild, but Mel is going to have to come back to Noxus with her. Jinx forces Jace to take her to the Hex Gates because she knows that Jace has the key to accessing it. Now underneath the Hex Gate, Caitlyn rushes into the Glamrock mines with Singe, who starts spraying a chemical to deactivate the magical potential within those stones. Caitlyn says that after he does this, he'll let her leave with his daughter. So as Mel and Jace bring Jinx, Ambessa, Rictus, all those guys to the Hex Gate, Mel starts cramping up because she's pregnant and her magic blasts all the Noxan soldiers away. Rictus' stones try absorbing all her magic, but it's not enough and they blow up. Then at this moment, Vi and Echo fly in on a hoverboard. Ambessa tries to jump in to stop Vi and Jinx, but Camille jumps out of the airship to attack Ambessa. Ambessa blows her horn to signal the attack, and at this moment, Isha pops out of the airship and shoots out Echo's hoverboard with a Glamrock bullet, sending Echo and Vi falling down. Sevika and the Cam Barons launch an invasion into Piltover. Cross starts bagging civilians. Margot spreads fumes all over. The Noxan soldiers start cutting down all the enforcers near them. The Pink Squad start climbing the council building, but even more Firelight forces come to hold off the Pinks. Warwick gets unleashed onto the battlefield and takes on Sevika. Hextech enforcers start arriving to fight the Noxan soldiers, and Camille signals the airships to start indiscriminately bombing Piltover. Vi and Echo split up as Vi starts climbing the Hex Gate while Echo rushes into it as Echo tries to climb it from the inside. Jace and Jinx 1v1 deciding the future of Piltover. Jinx's cape opens to reveal gazillions of weapons, and the fight ends with Jinx throwing a Hex Crystal, giving Jace a flashback to his laboratory as he gets knocked out and loses. Victor comes out of the airship with Ambessa. As the three of them, Ambessa, Jinx, and Victor enter the Hex Gate for their ultimate plan. Victor says he can take it from here to unlock the secrets of the Hex Gate as Ambessa starts holding off Mel and Camille. Heimerdinger arrives on the ground and says hi to Singe and discusses everything he knows about Glamrock to Singe to create the ultimate failsafe chemical. Mel tries to fight Ambessa, but then she starts going into labor. Ambessa rushes in to help her, but turns out Mel's actually faking it, talks about family being Ambessa's one weakness, and that only a fox can take advantage of this as she restrains Ambessa with her magic chains. Then all of a sudden Mel actually starts going into labor, but she tells Camille to take Ambessa away. So at this point Warwick gets really injured by Sevika and her army and starts running away, and in a frenzy starts attacking Vi, who's climbing the Hex Gate tower. They have a moment where Vi tells Vander to remember himself, but eventually it just seems hopeless as Vander says, "Finish me, Vi. It has to be you. I'm far too gone." And as Vi is about to crush Warwick's head, he says in his last words, remember to always protect the family," as Vi finishes Warwick off. So she climbs to the top of the tower and she finds Mel and Jace. Jace wakes up and tells Vi that they need to get down immediately. Mel says she can help, but Jace refuses, saying that she's literally giving birth right now. Mel counters that by saying they're all gonna die anyway, so might as well help. Then, once it seems like a majority of the enforcers have been defeated, Sevika orders all the Zonites to retreat. The remaining enforcers seem really confused as they start chasing after the Zonites away. But it seems like Sevika has something up her sleeve as she starts smiling. Jinx and Victor descend the Hex Gate when Echo starts following them. While they're taking the elevator down to the bottom layer, Isha notices Echo and starts fighting him. Jinx beats Echo up, saying that he can't stop what he knows will happen, and Echo cries, saying that it can be different. But Jinx says that's what she always liked about him. Then Jinx shoots Echo in the chest and tosses him down the Hex Gate, while Victor seems super uncomfortable with this. Vi starts carrying Mel as she and Jace start descending the Hex Gate. Right when Jinx, Rictus, Victor, Isha enter the bottom layer. Caitlyn tries talking to them to stall for time and ordering her enforcer squad to attack them, but Victor imbues magic into the stone which pulsates and takes out all the enforcers. Jinx hears Vi yelling from above as Vi starts fighting Jinx again, and Mel starts healing Echo's body. Jace takes this opportunity to preoccupy Victor and asks him about his plan with Jinx. Victor says that Jinx will wipe a slate clean and allow him to build up the new city according to his vision. Jace asks what happens to the civilians if the city blows up, but Victor says they'll obviously evacuate first. Jinx agrees with that, saying that they can all step away now to make things easy. Heimerdinger and Singe produce a new color chemical that starts deglowing the stone completely, and they start spraying it over everything to try to defuse the bombs. Rictus tries to stop them, but he gets glued down by Singed. Vi fights Jinx in the final confrontation. Jinx says to do it as Isha pulls out the monkey bomb. Victor then realizes that Jinx is planning to blow them all up right now, and Victor stops fighting Jace and says that this wasn't the plan. Jinx says this was always the plan, to wipe the slate clean as her eyes ignite with purple flames, and we cut back to the Pink squad defeating all the Firelights, having all the counselors tied up on the middle of the street. The Pink's leader yells that the city will be blown up and that all these counselors deserve to die with them. Then it cuts to Camille's broken body as a super scarred Ambessa takes and grabs Isha. Then Ambessa smiles at Jinx, says how she can't fool a wolf, and thanks her for getting everything that she came for. Turns out Isha took Pinks herself, and her eyes glow purple as she escapes Ambessa's grasp as she starts rushing to the center of the Glamrock cave. Caitlyn shoots a net at Isha, but Isha rips right through it. Then Caitlyn starts crying and asks Isha not to make her do this. As she pulls the trigger, Vi gets distracted and tells Caitlyn no, but Jinx takes this moment to knock out Vi, and Caitlyn shoots Isha right through the chest. But her eyes glow pink again as the Pinks gives her a second win as she gets up, plants the monkey bomb into the biggest Glamrock cluster. Ambessa rushes over to pull it out of the ground. Parts of the monkey bomb starts expanding and spinning as the runes start flickering, and Jace recognizes this design and yells at Victor, asking what he's done. Mel falls into the ground in labor again, as her magic flows out in a huge circle around her, getting absorbed into the Glamrock, turning it yellow. So the Hextech magic of the monkey bomb, combined with the power of the Glamrock storage, actually turns the Hex Gates green as they all start syncing together. Even Victor's Hex core is glowing green as well. Sevika watches Piltover from a distance as all the Zonites start cheering in victory. The Pinks members stand ready to die, get blown up along with the counselors, and all the Glamrock starts glowing red. Jinx seems super quiet but says that everything ends here, as we see all the Glamrock reserves ignite and all of Piltover just explodes. The beginning of episode 9 starts off with the Red Wasteland, very similar to the beginning of episode 1, where Vi wanders through alone, reminiscent of the first scene, and hears Jinx humming. Then it cuts to the opening. After the opening finishes, we see Echo's stopwatch as he activated it right when the explosion is about to go off, and reverses only 7 seconds into the past as Echo's stopwatch breaks. So once time rewinds, Echo runs to Victor with his board and stopwatch and tells Victor to fix and combine them and how he can't explain. Victor does this within 3 seconds as Echo uses his new time hoverboard. With 4 seconds left, Echo blinks to go get Heimerdinger and Victor and teleports everyone over to Mel and says that they're the only magic users and they must figure something out. Heimerdinger takes one good look at Victor and says he knows what he needs to do and how his time has come, and grabs Victor's hex core out of his chest and plants it into the ground. The hex core starts spreading on Heimerdinger's hand but also absorbing into the ground, and it seems to be funneling all of the magic from the Glamrock reserves into Heimerdinger. He looks at the hex core solemnly and says, "Perhaps I was wrong about you," as he signals to Mel to hold his hand. And then he tells Mel a mother is strongest when she has something to protect. Victor says that this level of magic is too much for Heimerdinger to handle, but Heimerdinger says it's to save the city after all. And Mel starts shining with immense energy. All of the Glamrock energy starts channeling into Mel as her magic pulsates into the ground, spreading her golden light all over the cave, all over Piltover, as every time someone touches the golden light, it wraps them in the shield. The explosion goes off, and all of Piltover is destroyed, but all the civilians and soldiers and Zonites caught in the crossfire, they're basically knocked out, injured, but still alive. Vi is basically unharmed because she put up a shield at the last moment, but everyone else is basically kaput. So Vi starts walking through the rubble and she sees the broken body of Jinx. Vi asks Jinx if this is what she wanted, but Jinx's eyes dart open as she looks horrible. Her eyes are completely black, devoid of life. Jinx smiles and said, "This is a lot better than what I expected," as she grabs open 3 bottles of pink, chomps down on it, and her skin starts growing dark until it's all black with flaming pink eyes and glowing blue hair as her whole body just radiates neon light. Vi asks Jinx now what she wants, and Jinx says she wants to make Piltover's history stay dead as they engage in the final clash. Right as it happens, Vi deactivates her gloves as Jinx skewers her through the torso, but Vi starts embracing Jinx in the hug. Jinx asks why she did that and starts crying, but Vi says she isn't far too gone. She knows what crossing the line looks like as Vander begged Vi to kill him. Vi talks about killing her father, emphasizing how Jinx killed her own father, and Vi says how she doesn't want to feel that same pain with Jinx. "Even after everything I've done," Jinx says, "especially because of it, because we can rebuild it together." Jinx cries even more, says it's not possible, that her body has a time limit now after what she just took, and that Vi is going to die too. Vi jokes that she thought she didn't care about that, but Jinx says she still feels this way anyways. They start hugging each other and crying as they both die and collapse on the ground. Everyone starts waking up as Echo sees what happens, and we find out Ambessa and Isha get utterly evaporated as the epicenter of the explosion. Then he sees Heimerdinger's evaporated shadow. He pulls on the stopwatch string part of his hoverboard to try to rewind time, but nothing happens, and Echo just collapses onto the ground. Caitlyn wakes up and sees what happened to Vi and starts crying. Mel starts cradling the child that she just gave birth to, and Jace rushes over to her. At this moment, there's a time skip to Jace giving another speech to Piltover about the disaster that struck, about the lives saved from Heimerdinger's sacrifice, about a new future stepping forward. Jace wants to remind everyone in Piltover that hatred is what led to this happening and the consequences of not listening to each other. Jace brings Sevika up to talk, who gets booed at, but Mel tells everyone to shut up. Sevika declares the independence of Zon, about the pain the people felt under Piltover's thumb, talks about how though many Zonites came and invaded, how many Zonites died to enforcers, they did not kill a single person. Destruction of the city was their ultimate goal as a demonstration of strength, and that Jinx's unhinged actions endangered the whole city as a whole, and how she does not condone them. But she will dedicate all the Zonite resources in rebuilding what happened. Jace and Mel vouch for her to not let any more blood be shed, as Piltover and Zon establish a new relationship going forward. Mel leaves the newly born daughter with Jace and Piltover and tells him that now that Ambessa's dead, there are things she needs to take care of in Noxus, and embarks there. Sevika sets up Cambaran Council in Zon. Echo's still sad. Victor starts leading the Pharaoh's hospital and works on a new hex core. There's a huge mural of Heimerdinger in the Firelight hideout. Caitlyn mourns Vi as a counselor, and Camille becomes Jace's assistant, to which she's really angry about that. And at this moment, Arcane wraps up with Piltover and Zon separated, but a lot of things healed. And the two sister cities start rebuilding a future of tomorrow for the both of them. But in normal Arcane fashion, there's an end credits scene, and Vi and Jinx sit in the vat hugging each other as Singe walks up to the glass holding his daughter's hand. Oriana asks who they are, and Singe said they're nieces of mine. As Arcane's over, hope you guys enjoyed the Arcane initial script leaks. Let me know if it's better or worse than how Arcane Season 2 turned out, if you guys would have preferred this version for it. And remember, this is not an April Fool's prank. All the sources are listed in the description in case you want to check it out. And yeah, my voice is kind of dead from reading all of that. Bye, guys.